He's a modern day Renaissance man right here in Russellville, and we have him on the spotlight today. Brian Wilson's next on the spotlight. Coming to you from the beautiful Olathe building in downtown Russellville, we welcome you into the spotlight on this Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Drew Brent, and if you're looking to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668. The fine folks right here at Olathe Realty will be happy to help you through your home buying or selling process. Give us a call, 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. It's an honor to have the guest that we have in here today. He is a podcast host. He is, I suppose, co-owner of Foursome Martial Arts, an instructor over at UACCM. The man has got so many different hats on. I don't know how he wears them all. It's Brian Wilson. Brian, how are you, my friend?
It's good, man. It's good to see you again.
Dude, it's good to see you too. I don't know how to keep up with all the stuff that you've got going on. Tell me how you do it.
Well, logistics is a big thing. I mean, and I have a lot of really good people around me, like namely my wife, Cora. She is a tremendous force behind what we do at the gym. And without her, it would the scale of what we are doing would definitely not be possible. But she kind of just takes it to another level. But we have a lot of really good employees. We're up to over 10 people working at the gym outside of Cora and I now. So it's just been a lot of growth the whole time. We're about to be in business for 10 years, actually.
A decade in business here is I think the milestone, because once you hit that 5 and 10 year mark, you're pretty much here. You're pretty much established. Walk me through your first 10 years as quickly as you can. You're here now,
Mm-hmm.
but I know at first it probably wasn't easy.
It wasn't. I started training martial arts after I graduated high school. So I was 19 years old, and I was just looking for like a community to plug into, right? Didn't really have anything I was doing other than, starting college at the time, and went in. I started training Inferno Martial Arts, and they ended up moving to Northwest Arkansas. So it was kind of like, that wasn't where my trajectory was headed. I actually just had lunch with the owner of Inferno, Caleb, right before this meeting. But when they moved, I kind of started, like the people that I was training with at the Clarksville gym and myself, we kind of formed a group up here. A lot of the guys were from Russellville. And 2012, we split rent with a karate school for a couple of years, like 23 months. And 2012 March, Cora and I, opened Foursome Martial Arts, and we were first down by UEC Theaters in Pickwood at the time, and a nice building. It was the old Damon's Upholstery.
Mm-hmm.
Really excellent opportunity there. Had a lot of growth. We moved on over to the 2300 Center. After a little over a year, we had outgrown that location. There's parking but that's the issue we had in really every spot, was just we just continued to outgrow it. We rented again at the 2300 Center for a little over 3 years, and then we bought our first location over here off Parkway. And then after over 3 years there, we about 18 months ago purchased the old Back to Basics building, right off of Reasoner, there on the Phoenix and that loop across from Phoenix, and what is that opposite Harold Drive. So we're back over there by Tina's Gymnastics. A lot of folks know where that's at, and it's the same since we've been in there. It is twice as large as our last gym, but it's on a whole other level. Like, it's double what we were doing at the last gym already, but we, just have constantly been dedicated to bettering what we do. Like, I was literally had a conversation with Cora about that today, as we've just been hitting milestones with the gym all the time that, is they're shocking. Like you plan for them, you do the things it takes to make those things happen, and then before you know it, they happen. And it's just really, our approach is from doing the right things. Like we're just trying to create a better community, to better what we do, to better how we provide the experience of people in martial arts, group fitness, hot yoga, kids. Like we have a lot of different people coming to train with us for a lot of different reasons.
I'm one of those guys that I really would want to go and do something like this. But just like, somebody who doesn't work out or is trying to walk back into that, there's an intimidation factor when you're talking about martial arts. But I've heard you say it time and time again that you have an eclectic community over there. Walk me through that. Just how eclectic are you over there?
I mean, right now, like my Tuesday, Thursday Brazilian Jiu Jitsu class, for example. Um, a couple weeks ago, we had a 32-person class. 12 of the people in attendance were women, right? So, we have just like a diverse group of people on the mats from all kinds of different, in diverse backgrounds. So there's that. There's just, and you would find that in any class. You would find that in the kids' class. Um, I think a lot of that is Cora's presence in the gym, and two, just like to try and buck the stereotype that it's like going to be a bunch of dudes with their shirts off, sweating in your eye. You might get your eye sweated in.
Right.
It
That could happen.
it
right?
does happen from time to time, right? It's like a running joke, like weird stuff like that. Occasionally does happen. But it's a good jiu-jitsu academy, a good martial arts academy is going to try and create an environment for the most people. And I think a good community of any kind is trying to take into account that it's not just for this group of people that wants to compete. The whole time I've been in business, maybe even at the zenith when Cora and I were both competing, not more than 10% of our student base was competing. So that's always like a small percentage, but I think it's the percentage, the piece that the general population focuses on and equates it. Okay, well, that's UFC, that's sport. In reality, I try and teach fitness, self-defense. Like I want you to, like, I realize that a lot of people are going to come to martial arts programs that I offer. I mean, I'm more the head martial arts instructor for the adults because they're going to get some type of fitness out of it. That's what I was after. It's like, okay, I didn't start working out until at the fitness center regularly until I was over 30. Then I was like, oh, the doctor, he says to walk and like lift the weights and
Yeah.
stuff, When I had done that in the past, it was to get ready for a tournament, So I try and take into account people are coming to see us that they're not going to do fitness kickboxing, but the only time they're going to get some exercise is through this martial arts program. That's what they've made time for. So, but and that's the thing is with all of the martial arts we do, you are learning how to not overexert, to be efficient, how to not get yourself worked up into a state of panic, right? So, but it's not. We don't do just martial arts either. I mean, we have the kids and the adults programs, but when we moved, we really expanded. We had a yoga program. We expanded what we're doing with that. A lot of my martial arts folks do the yoga program and vice versa. And then we have a really large fitness kickboxing program. So that's basically, whereas you might not want to do a partner class with me, fitness kickboxing is you in a bag and a very nice instructor, Hannah or Cora or Heather or Janelle, yelling at you to do things.
Right.
It's very, very fun. People love it. We have a whole demographic of people that do just the fitness kickboxing and yoga or one or the other. And then since, St. Mary's has gone out, unfortunately, there's a bigger gap in the group fitness market. And we've had the opportunity to expand what we're doing in our yoga room. We have our own room there, offering some Pilates and Tabata for, we have parents of kids, and we're trying to be accommodating to as many people as we can. Yeah, and we, for all of those reasons, really do have an awesome membership base.
I would assume too that when you are in a niche environment like that, that's very specific, interesting relationships form. you know, perhaps that maybe you wouldn't see anywhere else. Is that true for Forza?
Yeah,
The camaraderie of sorts.
definitely. I mean, it is. I just use the word community, right? Because we are a really diverse community. There's a lot of different people there for a lot of different reasons. There's people there working out that are never going to train martial arts,
Right.
you know, but they're exercising, and I think that's the value of just trying to create a positive environment that, in one way or another, can lend to your wellness. And you know, but yeah, I mean, it's a dynamic environment. It's an environment filled with a lot of different people, and I think anytime you get around a lot of people with diverse backgrounds, there's always going to be you know, it's the people business is what
Yeah.
a lot of martial arts school owners say about that, you know. And there's the good and the bad with that, but for the most part, I mean, I've formed some relationships through being on the mats that, I mean, are like my head coach was the Danny Dring. He was the officiant pastor. Well, I don't know what is the word for somebody who marries people.
We'll just go with officiant. I like that one.
Officiant.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds good anyway.
Yeah. But you know, he of Cora and I's wedding, right? Like it's almost everybody that was in my side and the groomsmen were people I trained with or you know, had been training with for a decade plus. You know, you get with these relationships. I mean, we're at the point now. It takes like 10 years to earn a jiu-jitsu black belt on average, and we have over half a dozen, including myself. But Cora's got her jiu-jitsu black belt. But like these people that have a jiu-jitsu black belt, these, you know, half a dozen folks have been doing this together for more than 10 years, right? So like you gotta ask yourself, like, you don't see that in high school
No.
or any you know, pre-collegiate sport. Like what else? What other type of community? Like maybe like a church environment you know, you stay in for that many years at a time with the same type of people, and obviously people are coming and going, but it's really unique to be around people for that long and to get to know them like you would if you were around anybody for 10 years.
Right. And I'm fascinated by the camaraderie aspect of that, just because I have noticed, especially in doing this show, uh, the conversations that I have with people always reflect that this community is far more, and when I say community, I'm talking about Russellville, is far more eclectic than I think surface level we might give it credit for. There's some diversity here, the obvious diversity, yes, but I mean, there's some interests here that I wouldn't necessarily think that were here until I learned that they were here. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm fascinated by that part. I'm also fascinated by the fact that you've been doing this a long time. What was the spark that got you interested in martial arts to begin with?
Uh, you know, really, I think when people hear the words martial arts, they start equating the sort of benefits of training it, like, oh, you know, confidence and focus, and I'm gonna learn how to protect myself, self-defense, etc. And it's really those types of things, like you know, and you figure out real quick when you start training that if you were to get in a fight with somebody who had even a little bit of skill, you would have been doomed. Like you find that out. Like the fact that people who don't know how to defend themselves start fights with people, and maybe that person is me, blows my mind. Like I would go so far out of my way to avoid engaging in self defense, right? But it's like I tell my students, we're training for the day we hope never happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you know, just that kind of stuff. I really, around the time I started training was the big fight between Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin, Ultimate Fighter 1. And that was like kind of the hype at that time. And that's like the Chuck Liddell era and everything. But like I was coming into that and I got interested in it, but that wasn't what drew me in. I didn't, I'd seen it and I was interested, but like I hadn't even been as a consumer in 2006, equated like what I was seeing on Spike TV with what they were doing
Right.
at the gym. I tell people this all the time. Growing up in the 90s, I was like, when I started hearing cage fighting, because I wasn't watching pay-per-views as a kid. First UFCs were pay-per-views. I
Right.
remember I watched the Tyson pay-per-view or two when I was a kid. But I was like, cage fighting, like wrestling? Like, like, because I'd seen in wrestling events
Right.
cage matches, right? So I'm
Right.
like, yeah, cage fighting. And then, you get on into this Spike TV era. You start to get like UFC 50 on. You start to see the organization become what it became. I mean, like you watch Sports Center, you're going to see MMA on there, whether you like it or not.
Right.
It's a national sport.
And it wasn't always that way. That's the thing that most people don't understand. I was a sports guy to start my career, and when I started in 2005 as a sportscaster, MMA was starting to get some mainstream attention. The Ultimate Fighter, I think, is what really did it for him, because up until that point, you had guys like, you had the Anderson Silvas of the world, and you had the Chuck Liddells, but then also you had guys like Butterbean, who were still fighting in cages, and it didn't look like it looks now with the sponsorships and the pay-per-view money. Is that a draw for some folks to come to the gym, or is it just kind of a byproduct?
Hey, it's a byproduct, and at different times, I shared a tap out meme the other day. It's been an unfortunate byproduct. I've like being in this industry for almost 15 years. I've seen these waves of like tap out shirts and affliction
Oh my
shirts and
Lord, affliction.
American fighter shirts and these different waves within the sport. Like when we were still in Clarksville, I remember we were joking about this on this meme I shared the other day, but this group of people coming in, they already had MMA gloves on, and they're like, we just saw never back down, and we want to become MMA fighters, and we were just like, hell yeah, sign them up,
Exactly.
But at that time, man, like when I first started training as well, I was not. I won't say I was in it for the wrong reasons, but I wasn't in it for any real higher team purposes. Like I loved going in and training and rolling and being one of the top guys in the gym. Like that is what I was doing. I competed a little bit early on, kickboxing and MMA. And over time you stay involved. Like I went from competing in that to doing a ton of competition jiu-jitsu to, I've cornered easily over 100 fights in boxing, kickboxing, MMA. Who knows how many jiu-jitsu matches, judo even a little bit. So it's you stay around and you see these waves come and go within. Like I tell Cora often, it's like, man, I never thought, like what I explained to you earlier, what we're doing with just the diversity of the programs. When I started training or when I started my own location, that like 1/3 of the people that come with us are not even doing martial arts related activities. So they're doing hot yoga, they're doing fitness kickboxing. I mean, you're teaching them how to throw punches and kicks, And a lot of times that opens up them trying other programs. That's another, but it's just a nice benefit. As people are coming in, seeing what we're doing. I think deep down, everybody wants to feel like they can defend themselves.
Yeah.
I
called you a Renaissance man at the top of the show, and I think that is true. You and Billy Reeder, I think, are like the two real Renaissance men
Billy.
in this area that are just pretty much good at everything. He's out sailing the world somewhere and writing books, and you host Life Unraveled, the podcast. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to go subscribe to it. Go listen to mine from 2 years ago. It was great. But you're also a history professor at UACCM. You have this podcast. There may be a stigma attached. So let's talk about some stigmas. The first stigma is that if you're an MMA aficionado as such, you don't necessarily always equate MMA with academia, and yet here you are.
Yeah, I actually did my master's thesis I got my Master of Arts in history at Arkansas Tech University, and I did my entire thesis on martial arts history broadly, but basically looking at martial arts as a continually reinvented tradition, and exploring some of the ways that we see that in the modern world. You know, I kind of just really focus on some certain areas. It's something I could definitely expand on, but I mean, that's a niche that's it needs more contribution. What you get a lot of times is you get you know, martial arts technique books were huge when I started training. That's people make some ebooks occasionally, but everybody's doing digital video now, right? So when you would get books that were, you know, publications, texts, you know, like actual books, not a journal article or something like that, right? A lot of times you would get things from practitioners. There's like a handful of 5 or 6 historians on the topic that are actually trained historians that contribute as scholars.
Right.
You know, so it's a field that it definitely needs more contribution, and you know, I look forward to throughout my lifetime doing more than my master's thesis on the topic. You know, I've done some additional work since, but nothing too organized. I mean, I've got kind of a bigger plan of some things that I'm trying to put in place. I think that just like what we're doing here is the future. I've got 1,000 videos on my gym's YouTube. I've got the podcast page and do shows about martial arts, do shows about history, and I just
Right.
really I think the future is taking everything I do and I'm interested in and capturing it on audio and video in some way.
So, what was the genesis of that podcast then? Was just this desire to kind of put those things out there, put these thoughts out there, or what was the beginning of Life Unraveled?
Well, really, I'd started being very interested in digital video. Now, this goes back to like I like telling my college students I dropped out of college like 3 times, and when I went back at 23, there was the recession in 08, 09. Went back and I was like, well, I'm just going to get my history degree. I can, at the very least, become a high school history teacher. At the very least. Didn't really ever want to do that. And the more I got into secondary ed program, I was like, no. But when I first went back, I met Jeff Woods, who's now a jiu-jitsu black belt out of our academy. He was just the last guest on my podcast, actually. But met Jeff Woods. He was actually in Vietnam when I went in. I went in to meet to like I heard that he had this program that he was running called the Arkansas Digital History Institute, where people made documentaries. My grandpa was at Normandy, at Utah Beach, the rightmost flank of the beachheads. And I just like he was open for the first time ever in his late 80s talking about it. And I wanted to capture that, and I'd found out about this Jeff Woods guy, and I go in and I'm like, is Dr. Woods? He's in Vietnam. And I'm like, what have I got but you know, I've been emailing this guy back and forth a little bit, and you know, we have had a really long and an amazing relationship. He's a great friend and mentor and training partner and instructor at our gym. And you know, he started training with me shortly after that, just because he saw me wearing jiu-jitsu shirts. But I did that documentary over my grandpa, and then I started working for something called, at the time, it was a program called the K-12 Initiative with Dr. Michael Tarver and Dr. Diane Gleason. Did that for a few years, produced, basically, we would produce content, digital content, and we would mail it to high school teachers from different topics from all areas of arts and humanities, English. We would get to, I got to film some of the greatest professors at Tech Lombardo, just like all of them, Dr. Jenkins over the Holocaust. Like I got to, like, it was constantly somebody new from psychology or whatever. Right, so we would we would film those and get those out to teachers to use as resources in their classes. It's just like a leading expert in the field. So like I had a lot of experience with that, and you know I kind of saw the value of video as a way to get the word out about what we're doing at the gym. So I went to a lot of people don't perceive martial arts as an industry. It is an industry. Like we do extremely well. We have a large academy, but like I know people who make millions a year in martial arts, right? And you would be surprised, even some of the top academies that are above us in this state, how successful they are just because of the scale of what they're doing. But every year in Vegas, there's a big trade show, martial arts super show. Core and I've been half a dozen times. And I went, and have you seen, I know you have, but like Master Ken,
Mhm.
like that guy? His name is Matthew Page. Anyway, he did a class that I took about his whole take on YouTube and making shows and like how he got into. And like after I came back, like I just kind of had the information a little bit to
Right.
kind of start doing what I wanted to do. I was looking at it from like a multimedia perspective. Like I want to, my gym YouTube is a lot of different things. I've got voiceovers, I've got uh, injury recovery, videos. I've got videos from all of those programs we discussed. It's not just one or the other, just boxing even.
Right.
So, I just kind of was like, all right, well, I've got that. When I wanted to, roll the podcast out, I'm like, well, I'm going to do some shows about just everything. And I'm going to do a show about everything I'm interested on the side. So I do MMA and a jiu-jitsu spinoff show just to kind of like, I don't want to talk, too much about the gym and what I do there to every audience.
Right.
I try and kind of compartmentalize it as much as I can. I mean, at the end of the day, I am who I am, but I do have, the history background and am involved with that. But I'm really just trying to dovetail everything together. I've got a different backdrop in my studio. I've been working on in a podium for filming my lectures, producing stuff. I mean, long term, I want what I'm doing with history and podcasting to be more in line with like a Danelli Bellelli or Dan Carlin's Hardcore History.
Yeah.
Our History on Fire is Bellelli's podcast. But, that's something more of what, in product, what I'm wanting to do. And I think that just creating all of these different ways to interface with your students that are with you is a definite benefit. I love kind of digitally hoarding stuff related to all of these things we're talking about and organizing. Like, I mean, my Blackboard, I'm always like, oh man, I got to put this stuff from the cloud over to here so
Yeah.
you guys can see it. But it's really just, I'm excited about martial arts. I'm excited about history, and I'm excited to share it with people. And have really put a lot of time into both. I just this past summer tested for my black belt with Bill Wallace, Superfoot Bill Wallace. He's famous for training a lot of celebrities, Belushi, Blues Brothers.
Nice.
He found that guy overdosed, unfortunately.
Really?
Like
Wow.
he trained him. He trained Elvis. Right.
Wow.
So yeah, Superfoot Bill Wallace, he's a legend. 75, 76 years old, and I'm like would not want to get into a striking contest with him. He's amazing. He's a legend of the martial arts, and it was a real honor to get to train with him again, but to go through his black belt testing, become one of his black belts. So, I've really around the same time was promoted in my first degree in jiu-jitsu. So really tried to keep up with everything I've got going, and there's times when I'm more involved with one than the other. It's just trying to balance it all out.
It's really strange because that's kind of what we started doing here, but more as a company. We thought, okay, we sell houses. That's what we do. I mean, you teach martial arts. You're a history instructor. Those are the things that make you money. Okay, well, we sell houses, but as a part of that, digital content is king now. And if you haven't gotten on board that, you're already behind. Not from even a standpoint of just marketing, but it's almost like, and tell me if you agree with this. It's almost like several decades ago, if you weren't in the phone book, nobody would notice you.
Yeah.
Now, and then back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, if you didn't have a website, then you weren't legitimate. Now you've gotten to a place where all of these things are available to you. If you don't have a digital portfolio to present what it is that you do and what you care about, you're almost going to get left behind.
Yeah.
by the people that already do.
No, certainly. I mean, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work to do that. It is a lot of work to maintain and organize and edit and curate any database. You know,
Amen.
and that's how I look at what we're doing. Like, I mean, yes, I can always go back and add more thumbnails. You know, would I have gotten a little bit higher reach if the thumbnail would have been on a little sooner? Probably so.
Yeah.
But you know, like, is we've climbed the ladder of success, or however you want to describe it. I mean, I have more and more people helping me, and for the first time ever, I'm not doing a ton of video editing, right? So it's just like I've got the same amount of hours in a day as everyone. I appropriate time to exercise. I teach history every day, Monday through Friday. I teach martial arts every day, Monday through Friday. So it's, I'm engaged in those activities, and I have leisure time. I have times where I don't want to do anything, just like anybody else. So it's just, I've said this a minute. It's just a real balancing act to figure out how to, delegate to people that are down to help you, that you need help, and the patience to communicate with them about what you want and need as they kind of rise to the occasion, training your people up.
Brian, this feels like it flew by, but we're close to out of time. I need you to tell
Okay.
everybody
Yeah.
where Force of Martial Arts is.
Okay, I mentioned this a second ago. We're at the old Back to Basics building. That's 301 Reasoner Lane. That's Russellville, Arkansas, 72802. So we're just right over by Tech. It's really across the way from the Huertas. There's right on the corner there where you turn in on Reasoner, is where like 7 and Phoenix intersect. And there's a First State Bank right on the corner. We're next to the old Cal Steel and behind New Life Church.
Outstanding. And then also go ahead and plug your podcast.
Life Unraveled podcast. You can listen audio wherever podcasts are streamed. And I do live feed with new episodes on Facebook and YouTube, and you can find the videos on either of those places.
Hey, we got to do this again. This flew by.
Yeah.
I need another 30, 45 minutes with you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Brian Wilson joins us here. Make sure to go and check out the Life Unraveled podcast and Force of Martial Arts. I need to do it. I've only been talking about doing it for 2 years, so it's probably about time. Coming up tomorrow, Sam Albright rejoins the spotlight. We're talking about the Sam All Night Music Festival coming up this weekend. It's going to be a big time, so do not miss that. That's tomorrow afternoon at 3. For now, my name is Drew Brent. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have a question or you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow.